And I'm Natalie.
And this is Twila and Natalie.
We're going to enjoy talking with you today about the joys and the pitfalls of being a grown woman.
Indeed. Every week when we come here, we ask a question, usually a question that has to do with us and how we live our lives. And if we're lucky, we get to answer that question, not just for ourselves, but for the audience at large and in some sort of universal fashion.
Yes.
If we're being deep.
That's right.
Usually. Okay, so this week's question, you're going to have to explain this a little bit. You gave me a question. I think it's a good question.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be an interesting answer all the way around. The question is, do you have a different personality in public?
I've been thinking about this lately, Twila, and how, and making me question, do we have a different public personality, persona, the way that we speak, the way that we present ourselves? And I know, and I don't mean in general, in general, it's like, okay, you might have better behavior when you're at church or a different behavior when you're at work. And I'm not talking in terms of morally and ethically.
Right.
It's in the way that you speak and act. So maybe to a degree morally. I've run into a few people lately at public events, and the way that they speak, I just stop and I'm listening and I'm wondering, do you talk like this at home?
Okay, so when you say, do you talk like this at home? Like, give me, I guess we should, I'll wind the tape back a little bit because you asked me this question first,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what I told you.
Oh, I know. We know.
I didn't even hesitate. I just said, yeah, of course. I'm not going to be somebody, I'm not going to be myself out in public. Are you crazy? No. And then I thought about it and I was like, wait, she might mean something a little bit different. So in my head, I was thinking more of like the idea of code switching, which is something that is a term that's relatively applied to particularly the Black community. The idea that you change your type of speech and the
your
way that
diction.
Everything in order to make yourself more palatable for white people when you're in public.
No, I get that. And that is pretty much what I'm talking about as well. But it's not unique only to the Black community.
Right.
I know that I'll work to make sure I'm using better diction. I was born and raised in Hawaii and we spoke a pidgin English.
Mm-hmm.
And that can come across sometimes. I've lived in the Midwest long enough that when I travel, people tell me they can tell that I'm from the Midwest, which I'm not gonna lie, mildly mortifies me.
You know how you know that, and I know it better than anybody. Midwest folks drop the T when they talk a lot.
Drop the T?
You just said Midwest.
Oh,
they do that a lot, and my children do it. My husband does it. They all do it. It's a very common, slow thing soft thing that in Midwest speaking.
Yeah.
And then when I over pronunciate things, because I do that a lot. I think I told you growing up, we moved around a lot, and I used to get the first thing people would target is the way that I speak.
Sure.
So I taught myself to speak like the TV anchors. So I sounded I taught myself to speak like Peter Jennings, and then I just sounded like an anchor when I speak.
Yeah.
So whenever somebody calls my house that knows me really well, like my sisters, and I'll answer the phone like during the day and it's professional, it'll be like, hello, can I help you?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, you got your nice little white lady voice on today. So that's I definitely know the idea, the idea of how you changing the way that you speak, to sort of make. And I don't do it for my comfort level. I do it for other people's comfort level.
See, I feel I'm questioning it with myself because I don't feel that I do. I feel I really am the same person, but I'm wondering if that's a fault because of what you just said, for the comfort of other people. And the more I try to suppress that, the more it comes out. I'll give you an example. I was sitting at a very nice fundraiser at a country club for our local school the other day, and had to make sure in my head, I'm like, okay, don't say vagina. Don't talk about sex. And the more I tell myself not to,
that's different of like how you speak versus what you speak about.
But it falls to personality and how you also behave in public.
Okay.
And the more I think not to say those things, the more I become obsessed with it.
And then you say it.
And I did talk about my vagina.
Of course you did. You knew you were
and
able to resist
coconut oil balances the pH levels in your vagina, and it's a great lube.
I can only imagine when you're sitting at the table, like the one person who doesn't know you at the table is like, seriously? Like she's under the table. You know how I do when we're out in public together and something goes sideways.
So
I start texting. I start texting somebody like, "Do you see what's happening here right now? We need to go." So like I can only imagine. I'm trying to think. I'm going back in my head because I've known you for like 4 years now. I would say of a lot of people I know, you are the closest to who you are in public and in private. Like there isn't very much line there between like who you're just yourself.
Yeah, and I've struggled with it more in the past, and now I'm kind of like, you know what, it is what it is, and
I'll be honest,
I'm
meaner in public.
Really?
Yeah. I would like to say I'm not, but I don't have time for foolishness, and strangers usually come with foolishness. So just leave them alone.
I would say you're less approachable in public.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's probably a better way of putting it. You're not mean. You're not going after other people. You're not starting the drama.
No, I finish it.
You're not tripping people at Target.
No, I finish it.
Exactly.
No, but you're right. I am not. I purposely would say I am not approachable in public.
Yeah, you're not. But if someone's acting a fool, you're going to call them out on it, and there might be an altercation.
There won't be an application. Usually, usually when I finish it, I finish it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's not. Yeah, and to be honest, at this point, as old as I am now, and as long as I've lived, I've got like a handful of like tricks in the bag that just I don't even really have to finish it with the whole altercation. Like we don't have to get into it. Like sometimes I can just give you the look, and that's usually enough for you to be like, oh, okay, I'm going. I'm not starting with her. I'm going somewhere.
I'll tell you one of my pet peeves, and I notice it a lot on if you're a fan of and you watch The Real Housewives. Oh, yeah. Any city that you watch.
Of course.
The way their voices go up in, what do you call that? Up in octave or up in tone from, they're having a conversation, da-da-da-da. Someone walks in the room. Hi!
Oh.
I hate that.
Oh, so that, that's the opposite. That's the middle-aged vocal fry. You know that, right?
No, that's a thing.
Yeah. Okay. So vocal fry it was attributed to like the type of speaking that Paris Hilton used to do and the Kardashians used to do when they first became famous. It's that thing where it's almost like an affected baby voice, but then you kind of let your vocal cords grind. So when they would be like, "That's great,"
oh yeah,
that's vocal fry. Ew. And you're right. And it was like 10 years ago.
Sure.
All the young popular girls or young famous girls talked like that. It was like a slowed down vocal grinding, like Valley Girl type talk. But I think very much so that us middle-aged women, that's
the high pitch.
Yeah. They're like, yeah. We all do it. We all do it.
I try to make a concerted effort not to because I know how I kind of go, what? But I'm sure
I don't do it with strangers. I do it with my people. Yeah. So like if I'm with my girlfriends, like my girlfriends and I were together not too long ago for like a get together, and one of our girlfriends told us something I was really, really happy to hear. And I usually do two things. I usually curse pretty specifically, and I usually tell somebody to shut up. But not like in the meeting.
Shut up.
I go shut up. Okay, I'll be honest. I usually say shut the blank up, and then I'm like, and then I like process it, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you. Like I get really excited, and I do. I like kick all the way up and mess up the sound bar, and then come back down and get back into normal.
But that's different. That's reacting to something.
So you mean just like the idea of like somebody comes in and like you just turn on like the party button.
Yeah, exactly. Or you're having a conversation and maybe in a new surroundings and there's a little more sing-songiness to your voice.
We do that?
Really?
Don't we do that with each other? I feel like we're busted because as soon as we say no, somebody's going to like record the podcast and send it back to us and go, on the first show, 2 minutes in, this is what you were doing. I feel like we're busted already.
It could be, but I really don't think so. I'm gonna have to go back and listen, or maybe just ask.
It's because we don't talk to each other outside of doing the show.
Yeah, we don't really know,
right? So,
and if we do it to text message, so we're not hearing each other.
That's true. We do. I do a lot of shouted capitals via text. Yeah, I do. I'm always like, oh my gosh, and it's not an accident. I really just like talking with shouted capitals.
Yeah, but if you start paying attention to it, I think you'll kind of notice that and I get that you hope that people are. That idea of being better behaved in public is fairly normal.
I'm not better behaved in public because of it. I'll be perfectly honest. I feel like I'm much worse behaved in public.
Well, but that's only because you don't engage. You become, the unapproachable Twila.
Yeah.
But you're intimidating.
I mean,
with
but
your
I like
fierceness.
That. But I like that.
I know, that's how you roll.
Yeah, we don't have. But you know what's funny? Because I'm like that about in like 90% of my life. If I'm out in public, you really aren't going to come up and say anything to me. But then like the grocery store is like seems to be like this like bananas all stop like potpourri of people just saying random stuff to me. Like today, like twice, I was at the grocery store this morning. I mind you, I don't engage people. You know, I don't. I don't look at people. I don't go, hey, how you doing? I don't do any of that. So I went to go grab a tomato. This other guy went to grab a tomato. He goes, oh, I'll just reach up over you. You got to be careful of those ones at the bottom because people sneeze on them. And then, you know, you get, and I'm like, why are you talking to me?
Well, first off, that's a really good point.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not a good point. I'm just saying, why are you talking to me right now? Like, there is another part of my body language that's just like, thank you, sir. Educate me on tomatoes and sneezing today. Nothing. And then I went to go get like spring onion or something. And I was trying to pick one out of the back because, you know, the ones in the front are gross.
Yeah.
And this lady came up and we had a little like accidental grocery dance where like she was trying to get past something and I was in her way. And we laughed about it and we moved on. And then she just started talking. But I was like, is she talking to me? Because I'm not responding. So she was, I kid you not, she was like, I'm getting these greens today because I'm not going to another store to go get them. And then she kept going and she was like, oh, and then I got to go get a turkey. And I was like, who are you telling this to?
I'm that person. I'll speak to people if I'm in a grocery store, which these days I never am because I get my groceries delivered. Figured that out.
Yeah, I gotta get smart. But
when I am at a store, I do that. I will comment on what I cross the line. I'll look at what people have on the conveyor belt and be like, oh, what you making?
No, but see, that's you. Like you're a curious person by nature.
Yeah,
in that
I'm
way.
genuinely curious and I want to
right.
know.
Like I talk to like I'm talked to and I am friendly with service people because I've been a service person and I know it can be a crap job sometimes. So I always talk to like the produce guy. I'm kind to them and I always make sure to say like thank you if they help me.
You
do
were
things.
kind to anyone who touches your food.
Yeah, AC. Yeah, that could be a problem. That really is true. But I mean, I try
which is
to
not
be,
a bad thing.
Yeah, I try to be really kind to those people. And
No,
I'll
I
be
agree.
honest, like just to move through my everyday, I tend to be less approachable. And mind you, with all the stuff going on in the news about, you know, crappy men in the world they have assigned to women to live in, I think a lot of my like unapproachableness came from years and years of being a single woman who had to transport herself to jobs on places like public transportation at all hours of the day and night.
Oh, so making that kind of that thicker skin, don't make eye contact.
Yeah, don't. I need you to look. I need to look like I could crush your throat when I'm walking to the bus stop. You know, if like being a 20-year-old walking to the bus stop at 5 a.m. to get on the first of 3 buses to get to her job.
Yes, Twila, but do you need to employ that same look at your kid's holiday open house at school?
See, the problem becomes a default. So then that's like your default.
It's a habit.
Yeah, your default face is like, I will kill you. And then people need to leave you alone.
I can totally see that. And I'm the person who's more, hi, hey, and I'll chat with people. And I'll have people ignore me. Like the Twilas of the world.
Yeah, well, that's a Midwest thing.
And I'll be like, for them to ignore?
Yeah.
Really?
Here, listen, you can send me emails. It's fine. I'm not going to argue with you, but I promise you, when I lived closer to New York, New Yorkers were 50,000 times more open and friendly than Midwestern people.
That's funny because you hear about that Midwestern nice.
Right. No. See, Midwestern nice is like that faux nice. Like we both reached for the potato at the same time. And it's like, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. And then, but that's as far as it goes. Like actual New Yorkers, like if we made eye contact, it would be like, even if it was just like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Like guys, girls, all of it. I braced myself and, you know, to have New York be this awful, scary place that people weren't going to be kind in. People were so kind.
No,
so
I would agree to that.
So helpful everywhere, like all walks of life, helpful everywhere we went.
Yeah.
And I used to spend like every other weekend in the city just exploring, getting lost in the city. Couldn't have been kinder. Here in the Midwest, I could be on the ground like halfway bleeding to death. And my daughter could be standing there in a panic next to me. And a Midwesterner would walk up to my daughter and go, honey, are you okay? Is she messing up your shoes? Can I come on, we should move from her. That is the Midwest mentality. And it can be a bit frustrating, but it's true. And you're laughing because you know it's true.
Well, I wonder too if that's why I get asked a lot if I'm from the East Coast.
Yeah, because you're talking to people.
Because I do. Because I'm talking to people and I engage. And I like to meet new people. So when I'm at a thing, and if I'm, say, looking at something and somebody else is looking at it at an event or whatever, I'll strike up a conversation.
Right.
But like I said, there are all times where they kind of just act like I didn't say anything.
Right, because they know you're not talking to them.
But I am talking to them.
But they don't talk to people, so they know you're not talking to them. That's how that works. That's so, I mean, even in that kind of respect, if we're kind of, sort of framing around this idea of like having a different personality in public and in private, I'll be very specific. I have a public personality for strangers, which I employ. Like I said, I'll crush you. I do have a public personality for, I've referred to it for years. I do have a trophy wife persona.
Sure, yeah.
Like when I go places and I'm representing my husband because it's his work thing or it's his professional
You don't
thing.
do the I'm going to crush you face?
No, I go full Vanna White. Like, I do. And my default is not smiling. So smiling for a long time actually hurts my face. Like, why does my face hurt? Because I'm smiling. So, I mean, I will be smiling at people. I am very like, hi, how are you? Like my tone goes up.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I remember somebody that my husband works with heard me on the radio the first time she heard me and didn't recognize it was me because my voice sounded so different than what she was used to hearing me at like work functions. At work functions, it was just like, hi. Yeah, Ben's wife. How are you? Nice to meet you. And it was like in her world, it was like, who's the lady on the radio? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's a little different. Sure. And I understand that. I've always been honest about that.
I really feel that the world would be a better place. Think about when you put on that more polite voice and the way you communicate with, maybe not you and strangers, but in general, when we speak to strangers, we're in a store, we're in a restaurant, that politeness, the way we speak to the mailman, if we carried that over into our households, would be such a game changer. And I'm going to brag right now and say I do. I do. I work really hard to speak to my partner and the kids, mainly my stepkids because they're younger. My older adult children, not as much. But I try. And if you ask them, I think they will say I'm improving because Tony's been helping me with that.
I'm making a face right now because I don't do that. Because I feel like I do enough tap dancing for the rest of the world. I'm not tap dancing in the place I pay a mortgage on. Nope. and I'm not not tap dancing around these children who actually caused all of the destruction to my body that exists. No. Sorry.
But if we communicated to them just a little bit more with a little bit more kindness, and I understand the frustration because there's a history when it's your children and when it's your partner. And so there's that history and the frustration can often be right below the surface. See, but I feel it's also kind of a fake it till you make it, See,
I don't think that, I would like it if that could work. But after all this time, when I try to do that, everybody thinks something's up. If I'm being like, hey, you guys, then they're like, what? What happened?
Who died?
What are you about to do? Everybody knows if I come into my house, and I try to do that, one of two things has happened. Either something bad really happened and I have to give you bad news, or I'm drunk. Those are the only two. Those are the only two things that could exist. Because my family knows me so well, and I am so myself, like at all points and turns, that if I'm talking to my son in a way that is, like, we should, like, let's have a talk about this. He knows that's not how our dynamic works. He knows that's not organic to me. He knows I'm serious when I go, boy, sit down. We need to have a talk right now. Or if we're trying, like, even when we're having a heart to heart talk, he knows my tone is very like, I'm talking to you like somebody who cares enough to call you out on your crap.
Oh, totally. And I'm not saying it needs to be a total Pollyanna kind of thing. It's, we need to be stern and whatnot with our children when it comes to that. I guess maybe more.
That's how I say hello.
Oh, wait, is that you talking to your husband or your son?
Oh, everybody. When I come in the door in the afternoon, I'm like, hey, well, you got homework? Yeah. What do you got to do? And they'll tell me, you better get to work. You got things to do, kid. And then, like, my kids get annoyed because I make dinner a lot, and they, we share it in our house, but I make it a lot. And they go, well, what's for dinner tonight? Food. Mom, are you going to get to eat it? Yeah. Am I going to poison you? No. Then don't worry about it. You'll eat one and put food on the table. That's just kind of like, and I live in a house full of smart asses.
And I wonder why, Twila.
Well, yeah.
I wonder why.
Listen, I know it's genetic.
Smart ass is the new love.
Yeah, I know it's genetic.
It's in the dang DNA.
Right.
DNA.
we wouldn't. I don't think we would know how to deal with each other if we were being too nice.
No. Now let me throw this twist at you.
Okay, go for it.
What about, and this used to make me crazy, there was a gentleman I was in a relationship with in the past, and he would be one way when we were alone, more kind of solemn and down. And then as soon as we stepped foot in public, the most charming man would emerge.
Oh, yeah. So we must be, you said in your past. I mean,
my past.
Apparently I'm married to him now. So that is, God bless him. That is my husband. My husband's default is, at home is like quiet, corner, one-word grunts and answers. Yeah. And then as soon as we show up someplace, it's, hey, he's like
Mr. Charming.
He that like in the movies when they show the guy and he smiles and he gets a little glint in his teeth that the light catches. That's my husband in a public place. And sometimes I'll get so mad.
Yeah, because do you find that frustrating? Because when you're out and you see that guy, there's nothing more attractive than a smile and a positive
because that guy's a charming bastard. And then as soon as we get in the car to get home, that, the charming bastard like ends right at the driveway before our house, like where he stops short of the driveway and goes, you should get out because you're not going to be able to open the door. Like that's the
Do you feel robbed? But see, wouldn't you like it if he brought a little bit of that charm home?
Well, sometimes I get mad and go, okay, like if he comes in and we both had a long day, I'd be like, listen, you need to go back outside and send in the guy who talks to strangers because that's the guy I need to talk to today. But I can't, I get frustrated with it, but I can't be entirely mad about it because he gets, inadvertently he winds up getting the same thing. If I've gotten the kids after school, there's the magic hour, which really is the catastrophe hour from, the hours between like school release and dinner time where they start out okay, but they haven't seen each other all day. And then they just go ballistic with each other or they're melting down or they've got work to do or we got to make them finish a chore. Like all the things that make you just go crazy.
Yeah. All the parenting work.
Right. Where I've had like my reserve, I had my downtime in the afternoon. So when I first see them, I'm in a good mood and they're in a good mood, but then they deteriorate. So by the time, by the time my poor husband walks in the door at like 5 or 6 or 6 or 7 sometimes, nobody has any reserve left. I've already used it. I have now yelled at people for like an hour straight. So he comes in the door with, hellos, and I come in the door, like he looks at me and I have the stranger face, like, don't talk to me, I will crush you. and then the kid, and then the kids will be, like having their, like, whatever their moods are. So sometimes I feel bad because I feel like he walks into a wall of hormones. Yeah. And it's just like, maybe you should go sit in your car for 2 hours because
come when it's safe, you can come in.
Right. I'm always like, well, thank God we got a dog because somebody should be nice no matter what happens.
But that's what I'm saying. I think if we interject that into our household a little bit more, specifically mainly with our partners, that it makes a world of difference. Even if you need to fake it till you make it a little bit.
See,
but Twila, we can choose. We all, there's the chaos, and I get it too because I have younger stepkids as well and homework and all that.
Yeah. But
I'm a big believer in, and I practice this myself, and I know the effort sometimes it takes. It's in the reaction to it and how you handle it. Stuff is going to go sideways. It's the kid who the morning of is like, so I have this project due today.
Exactly. I didn't start it.
I need styrofoam.
The bus comes in 20 minutes.
And all kinds of other crazy things. It's not giving it that initial frustrating reaction. It's an exercise. But I think that, because if you're out in public, often, if something like that similar happens, what do? You don't freak out. And if you do, then you're just an ass.
Thank you. I'm offended because that's what I do. You know exactly what that's what I do.
You're in a restaurant. They bring you the wrong food. You just go, oh my gosh,
Natalie,
you know what? I
that's
actually
food.
ordered the cheeseburger.
But that's food.
But it's similar. Or do you react in a way that's like, oh my gosh, this is not what I ordered. Take it back.
No, because they'll spit in it. But if my kids are clowning in the Target, they don't get to clown.
Twila, your kids are putting your toothbrush in the toilet. They're doing all kinds of stuff.
But remember, we already know that. That's a story for another day. When I found my toothbrush and it seemed really odd,
but
and
just
I was like,
think though, and it's just exercising a little bit more patience, not going with that initial reaction of frustration. And my whole point with this is that I feel we exercise that more in public than we do at home.
But that's just because we think we're being watched.
But listen, why wouldn't we give the people we care about the most our very best?
Okay, I'm not saying that. No, because that's not my very best. It's not. Okay, now we'll make that argument. It is. The person that I display in public is not my very best. The person I display in public is my most phony. It is. She is not the person who, who understands things with a certain amount of depth. She is not the person who loves unconditionally. She is not the person who extends herself whenever somebody needs it. And is, and the lady that shows up at Target is not the lady that you want to run into if there's, you don't want that lady running into a burning building, because I'm going to be concerned that my skirt's not straight and that my shoes are my heels are a little too tall. I shouldn't run in there. You want the version of me that hangs out in this house and is a total smartass and wears hobo clothes, and if she heard something exploding in her neighborhood would run directly toward it to help and not go, I'm too cute today to get dirty, I'm going to call 911.
No, but I think you can have it. I think you can have it both. And I think that kind of is part of the problem, is we associate too much that being politeness with being wimpy or being weak.
Well, no, because I'm polite everywhere. I'm polite with my children. I mean, I say please and thank you, even if I'm being sarcastic when I'm doing it. I think there's a general thought of do you behave differently when you think people are watching? And I'll be perfectly honest. I behave differently when I think people are watching because I'm always hyper concerned with the environment that I find myself in particularly as a woman of color.
Yeah, I get that.
Like I behave in Target because I don't want the security following me around at Target. Fat lot of good that does, they do it anyway.
You don't carry a giant bag and keep it open as you're going by the shelves.
I mean, I don't, sometimes I don't, when my kids were young, sometimes I didn't let them have the meltdown or just work their way through it, because if they were working their way through it, benevolent white people would come up and think they need to save my children from me. And I didn't. That was, you know what I mean? Like
I get
those are the I would pick and choose moments based on is our family going to be at some sort of risk that normally they wouldn't be under?
Yeah.
If in an ideal world I could check my son in public when he needed to be checked for being disrespectful, I would love if that could happen. I would love to be able to just go, young man, and here's the thing, I do it anyway. So. And that's why I can laugh about it, because I know if my kids are cutting up in Target, there is a point at which I will start counting. And once the count starts, they know they've got to 3. And if they get to 3 and they're still clowning, I always tell them, guess what? You are never going to be as big of a clown as me. I always tell them. I always go, listen, you think you're being a clown? No, honey, the circus is about to come to town. And then, and if that's what it is, that's what it is. And
when your kids are old enough to feel embarrassment now, which is a wonderful tool. I'm not sure there's a better parenting tool than holding embarrassment over your children's head when they're old enough to be embarrassed and care what people think.
Okay, embarrassment and a healthy sense of just enough fear for them to think she might actually go crazy.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's, I go and what's funny? There is the personality. There's the tone change that that nobody in my family likes. Because I'm normally, when you know me and I'm familiar with you and we're friendly, I'm a classic ambivert, as they call it. I'm not good with brand new people, but once you're in my circle, I'm good. I'm full personality. My family and everybody knows when I get quiet, everything's about to blow. So I usually have a very loud speaking voice. I'm pretty loud in tone, but if I drop and all of a sudden it's like, we're going to have a talk right now, run for your life. Even I will tell you, I wish I had a little button or something that would light up on my shoulder that would go, run.
Yeah.
She's
warning.
About to blow. Right. That's, I know that's where I know, I have to walk away now. One of my teenagers and I got into it and I went, I'm walking away right now because nobody wants to see what could happen. And I started walking and they started following and kept talking. And I turned around very politely and said, you do not want to pursue this. I am holding on by a thread.
Yeah.
You might want to leave. And then, and even their face was like, oh crap. She's actually and I was whispering and I don't whisper. Even when I tell my kids, use your inside voice, my inside voice is like, oh, this is my inside voice. It's still loud. So they were like, I'm going to go hide. So I know that.
But that's still a great exercise of that patience and self-control. I'm saying you're not blowing up on them off the bat.
I try not to.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You have your way of doing that in the way that, out in public, you want to be a little bit more patient with people and, at home. So you do have your way of doing that, where it's not that, initial blow up and freak out.
No, but but I just don't have that in my, like, I would love to think that in my everyday that I could, find more of a wellspring of like nice to, like sweetness to be like, hi, honey, how are you today? I wish I had that. I don't have that. It's
not necessarily that. If it's because I think we can show affection and our affinity for somebody without it being, if you're naturally syrupy like that's one thing, and that's natural. It comes natural for you that way. That's not me.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't do that either.
Yeah.
But I work to speak with kindness.
No, I do. Okay, I will say that.
Yeah.
I think because even when we talk about in terms of code switching and in terms of personality, even though my family are sharp edged in terms of like we go at each other all day. We joke all day. We make fun of each other all day. Like we are sarcastic people.
Mm-hmm.
We really are. But we live our lives very specifically with with a goal to teach them to be good humans and kind humans. I always tell my kids your kindness counts.
Yeah.
So as much as my son is like a dink when he wants to like poke at his sisters and really tease them and make fun of them or whatever, if something happens to one of them, like in a heartbeat, he's right there.
Yeah.
Like he's the first person. Like the other night, one of my girls like slipped on the steps and just hurt her butt. But it was more embarrassing than it was hurtful.
Sure.
And it's I came back upstairs and he said, "Oh, what happened?" I said, "Oh, your sister fell. She's fine." And he didn't even hesitate. Like, my word was not good enough that she was fine. He got up. He came downstairs to check. I heard him talking to her. Came back upstairs. Went back about his business. I go, "Where'd you go?" He goes, "I just want to make sure she's okay."
Aww.
And I'm like, that. I know they have that in them.
Yeah.
They can. So yeah. An hour from that, then I'm gonna have. I was fussing at him about like over the line jokes. Like, that was over the line.
Yeah.
Like, we don't talk about that. We don't talk like that. But at the same time, I know that inherently, like, I know that my son's the kid who will run ahead of you and hold the door.
Mm-hmm.
I know that my daughter is the person who will find, $1 on the ground and spend 15 minutes, like, calling every stranger, like, walking up to every stranger and go, did you drop $1? Did you drop $1? Did you drop $1? Because she's, in her head, it's like, if it was my dollar, I'd be crushed.
Yeah.
And that's how, that's how I think anyway. That's my default is, like, I would feel terrible if somebody didn't help me if I needed help. And that's kind of, so we try to breed that in them.
Yeah.
So even, like, I've had all variation of trying to be, like, more of the, I have friends that I call them my librarian friends because they have the softest tone and they never raise their voice at anybody, not their children or anything. Like we'll be like gathering to go someplace and my librarian friend will be talking to their kids like, "Honey, why don't we put our coats on and why don't we get ready? And does anybody need to use the bathroom? Okay, well, come on, let's go get in the car." And I am right next to her going, get your coat. I'm not waiting for you 5 minutes and I'm leaving with the car. See, now, why are you putting your shoes on like that? Like, we're two totally different animals. But I know at the end of the day that we're both, the stuff that really counts, we both do. We just have very wildly different paths to get to it.
Of doing it, exactly. And at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding with your children and the way that they themselves behave and treat each other in general.
Yeah. Hopefully I might turn out kids that you want to punch in the mouth half the time, but at least I know they'll be good people.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'll take that. So, I guess we should really and truly ask the question. Do you have a different personality in public?
Yeah, and I'm going to stick with no, I don't.
You really don't.
That might be different. And maybe, and sometimes I wonder, like I said, I've been thinking about, should I have a different personality in public? I just can't help myself. I can't do it. I try, and the more I obsess about not saying certain things, it's like I have a form of Tourette's. They just bubble to the surface almost obsessively. Which is kind of embarrassing.
It's not embarrassing.
But I can't hold it in.
No,
I can't hold
Listen.
in all this, Natalie.
Listen, if I don't make anything else clear, it is not embarrassing. Most people spend their whole lives wishing that they could be themselves in full, unapologetically. Most people never really let themselves be themselves for whatever reason, whether it be fear or shame or whatever it is. They don't let themselves, just be in their own shoes and be accepted like that. You do that on an everyday basis, and I find that to be one of the most endearing things about you. And I'll be honest.
I feel better about it.
Well, because and you and I have had that talk. Like, some people get you, and some people just don't. And if they don't get you, they really don't get you. And that, and I've had people come up to me and be like, how do you deal with her? Like, she's a lot. And I go, I always go, she's a lot, but she's a lot of good. Like, you just don't, you have to know who I said, you got to get past what you think is the surface and figure out what it is. And I say the same thing about me. A lot of people don't like me, and that's okay. You don't ever really have to. You just have to respect me. And that's okay. And that's, I mean, you know, my life motto, what other people think of me is none of my business for a reason.
That's right.
So, I mean, at this point, if I'm answering the question, I mean, yeah, I do have different personalities. I mean, after this conversation, I feel like I'm Sybil.
Yeah.
Because I know I seem to have one for every occasion. So that's, I suppose. I said, if anything, here's the thing. Hopefully I actually do have different personalities. What's going to be interesting is if we get emails from people that know me that are like, nah, girl, you're just mean everywhere.
That's right. And great. For our listeners who were born after 1985, Sybil is a movie about a woman with multiple personality disorder.
Yeah, I'll put it in the syllabus. It's an old Sally Field movie, but it's lovely. I'll make sure to put it in the syllabus so you get a chance to check it out. As always, we want to hear from you. You should go to the Facebook page. Go to Matriarch Digital Media. You should like it if you haven't already. And there's a fun little send message tab. You should use that tab and send us a message and let us know what you think about today's topic or about the show in general. We want to hear from you. And then, hey, go to the website too. There is a website at matriarchdm.com, and you can get past episodes of our show. You can check out the blog. You can do all kinds of fun things to interact with us there. Hey, we do the show because of you, and your support has been invaluable, and we appreciate it. So thank you so much for supporting us. We love doing what we do, and we will talk to you soon.